जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे त्रयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुम्. I offer my humble pranams to Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sharada Devi, Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Akhandananda. I also offer my pranams to Geeta Prana Mataji and thank her for giving me this opportunity to speak on this special occasion. Today, as we all know, is the holy occasion of Mahalaya Amavasya. Today also happens to be the birthday of Swami Akhandanandaji Maharaj, who is one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. He was born in the year 1864 on September 30th to Pious couple Srimad Gangopadhyaya and Swami and Srimati Vamasundari Devi. From childhood itself, he was an extraordinary boy and he was named as Gangadhar and he had a very deep spiritual inclination. So he was very daring and fearless by nature. He would perform austerities such as taking Ganga Snan thrice a day and perform a lot of japa, dhyana, meditation, etc. When he was at the age of 12 years, he met Sri Ramakrishna in a devotee's house. This meeting created a very deep impression on his mind. And then again when he was around 19 years old, he met Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar. From then onwards, Sri Ramakrishna accepted him as his disciple and guided him in the spiritual sadhana and helped him reach the ultimate goal. After Sri Ramakrishna attained Mahasamadhi, Gangadhar led a Parivrajak life, going to many places of pilgrimages like Kashi, Ayodhya, Haridwar, Kashi, Kedar Badri, etc. He was very adventurous by nature, and because of this nature, he had to face many risky situations also. So he crossed Indian border, went to Tibet, and he lived in the Buddhist monasteries there. He learned their mannerisms and their customs, language, tradition, etc. So during his life in these monasteries, he observed some of the luxurious lifestyle of the lamas, and that actually infuriated him. He did not like it very much. He opposed it, and that infuriated the lamas. Then the lamas, they imprisoned him, and he was kept in prison for some time. Then somehow he had to escape from the prison, and then again he was captured by the British and again kept in the prison. And then upon investigation they found him to be innocent and he was released. Swami Vivekananda, he loved him very affectionately. They had a very brotherly bond, and a very affectionately he used to call him as Ganges because his previous name was Gangadhar. It was actually Swami Vivekananda who asked him to come to Belur Math and take the vows of sannyasa and the name Swami Akhandananda. He accompanied Swami on many pilgrimages. It was actually Holy Mother herself who requested Swami Akhandananda to go along with Swamiji, because Akhandanandaji, he had this experience in staying mountains and facing those kind of situations. So mother wanted Akhandanandaji to go along with Swamiji. So he accompanied in many of the pilgrimages along with Swamiji. And in 1902, when Swamiji passed away, Akhandanandaji, since he had a very deep relation with him, he was very disturbed, and he even thought of committing suicide, but he was actually prevented by Swamiji himself in a vision. And Akhandanandaji was the first person who started relief activities and service operations in the Ramakrishna order. So he was inspired by this ideal, Shivagnane Jiva Seva, serving all humanity as Lord himself. And Swami Vivekananda wrote many letters to him with this regard to motivate him to do more of this kind of work. And this was the idea given by Sri Ramakrishna, Shivagnane Jiva Seva. Swamiji implemented this idea, and Akhandanandaji was of great help to him in this regard. Once Sri Ramakrishna showed a very beautiful vision to Swami Akhandananda. It was the vision of Mother Yashoda and Lord Krishna. Then his mind became filled with that Vatsalya Bhava. And as a result of that, he opened one orphanage in Sargachi. There he nurtured the children, he took care of them, he served them as living Narayana himself. In 1925, he became the vice president of Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission, and in 1934, he became the president of the Ramakrishna Order. But still, he always preferred to stay in Sargachi. In 1936 is the year of birth centenary celebration of Sri Ramakrishna. Since he was president of the order, he was asked to give message for the centenary celebrations. But in the beginning, he was not obliging for it. He did not want to give any message at all. But then Akhandanandaji stated that he had none of his own, but only the message from the Lord. I am infinite and eternal. What is my centenary? Sri Ramakrishna in a vision actually gave this message to Akhandanandaji. Later this became the message for the centenary celebrations. And ultimately in 1937 he came to stay in Belur Mutt, and on Feb 7th at the age of 72 he attained Mahasamadhi. So this is about the life of Swami Akhandanandaji. And now moving on to the topic for today, Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi, the Chandika incarnated as Ambika. So the Chandi, which is also called as Durga Shaptasati or Devi Mahatmya, is the part of Markandeya Purana. It has 700 shlokas which are arranged in 13 chapters. It has mainly 3 sections: Mahakali Charitram, Mahalakshmi Charitram and Mahasaraswati Charitram. Devi Mahatmya is the only portion of any Purana which is used in a homam. When we perform any homam, be it Rudra homam or Sudarshana homam, we never use a Purana Katha to offer ahutis, except in this case Chandi homam, where we offer ahutis. Now, the Devi Mahatmya, it starts with 2 people, Surata and Samadhi. Surata is a king and Samadhi is a merchant. What happens with Surata is that his own ministers, they deceive and they cheat him. Being defeated in a war, he is forced to leave his own kingdom, and on some pretext he goes to a forest. And Samadhi, who is the rich merchant, his case is also the same. He is also deceived and cheated by his own family members, his own wife and children, they cheat him, and hence he had to leave his own house. He also comes to the forest. Now both Surata and Samadhi, they meet each other in the forest. They begin to share their woes. One thing is noteworthy here. Though both of them, they were deceived and cheated by their own people, they were still very deeply attached to them. And they were constantly thinking about them. They could not come out of thinking about their own people and possessions. So this is a very striking feature of the Chandi. Chandi begins with this phenomenon of attachment to our own people and possessions. The so-called me and mine. My children, my family, my wealth, etc. Even though we get deceived, even though we get cheated multiple times, still we are not able to give up thinking about them. But why is it so? Why are we not able to overcome this phenomenon of attachment? So to answer this question, Rishi Medas, he starts his discourse. He says, it is because of this great Shakti which is called Mahamaya. It is by Mahamaya's deluding power that everybody in this creation is trapped. Everybody, nobody is exceptional, everyone is trapped in the creation. Jnanamasti samastasya jantor vishaya gochare. Not only human beings, all creatures are attached to different objects through this disease of attachment. Now, owing to the deluding power of Mahamaya, the entire creation is looking outside. Nobody is looking inside, like we do not introspect at all. So this disease of attachment can be cured, and this problem can be solved only by worshipping Divine Mother and surrendering to her. In Sri Ramakrishna's life, we see this. Vanchana kama kanchana atinindita indriya rag. As long as the attachment for Kama and Kanchana is existing in us, so long we will not be able to attain Khandana Bhava Bandhana. Now, the Chandi is an allegory. So let us discuss briefly about all the three sections of the Chandi and what do they symbolize. The first part is Mahakali Charitram. This tells about the Divine Mother in her dark, deluding aspect that ensnares the humankind in the bonds of ignorance and attachment. It is the power of Tamas. Madhu and Kaitaba, they represent the lowest form of the human mind, densely shrouded in ignorance, fear and darkness. These demons, they emerge from Vishnu's earwax. And they have no reason to attack Brahman, but still they feel like attacking Brahman. This unprovoked attack on Brahman reminds us of the senseless violence which we see in our own world, where members of one religious, political or ethnic group want to attack another group for no reason. Just because they are different, they want to attack. This is what Madhu and Kaitaba represent. The two demons, Madhu and Kaitaba, they want to remain in cosmic ignorance. So, the Divine Mother as Mahakali should be invoked to drive out the fear and destroy the impurities in us. Now, moving on to the second part, which is Mahalakshmi Charitram. It is about the power of Rajas. Here, Divine Mother is presented as fiery and active power that vanquishes evil and upholds the moral order of the universe. See, whichever way we may choose to view the world, but we still have to live in the world. And this part, Mahalakshmi Charitram, it teaches us how to live in this world. Mahishasura here symbolizes the power of human anger and greed that threatens to destroy everything it touches. Like Mahishasura, we often go through life agitated, dissatisfied. When Mahishasura conquered all the heavens, though the gods like Indra, Vayu, Varuna, they all had powers, but it was all scattered. Have we ever seen a war or a scenario where we are able to conquer our own enemies with scattered powers? That is not possible, right? So in a similar way, we need to unify all our energies. This unification of all the energies of gods, it manifested itself in the form of Ma Durga. So, to fight the evils within us and also outside of us, we need to unify all our scattered energies. This is what we find in Ma Durga, unified manifestation of all the powers. The next is third part, Mahasaraswati Charitram. Here, Mother reveals the luminous, benevolent form through which she grants enlightenment and liberation. Here first we meet Shumba. So to Shumba, Chanda and Munda, they come with the news that they have seen a woman with a captivating beauty and they suggest him to possess that woman, like she is the jewel among women. Then Shumba thinks, yes, I must go get her. So first what he does is, he sends his smooth talking messenger Sugriva with a marriage proposal to the Devi, in which Sugriva fails. The Devi sends him back. Then Shumba sends Dhumra Lochana, but Dhumra Lochana's brute force also fails. Then he sends Chanda and Munda with a huge army, but they also lie dead in the battlefield. Then a demon named Raktabija, he strides onto the battlefield. The unique feature of Raktabija is, whenever a drop of his blood falls on earth, another demon of identical size and strength springs up. Now, what happens is, Devi Kali, she roams the battlefield and she laps up the drops of blood. So now the Raktabija drained of blood, he also lies dead in the battlefield. Interpretation of this Raktabija episode takes us deeper into our own minds. Definition of yoga according to Patanjali Yoga Sutra is Yoga's Chittavritti Nirodha, which means yoga is control of thought waves in the mind. Anyone, like of course we all have tried, like anyone who has ever tried sitting for meditation, we know how difficult it is. The minds keep running from here to there. Indriyani pramatini haranti prasabam manaha, says the Bhagavad Gita. The senses are so strong that they forcibly carry away even the mind of a man of discrimination. So no matter how hard we try to concentrate, the mind wanders from here to there, and one thought will give rise to another. Every desire that rises in our mind, it produces many more. So this is a continuous process going on. And Devi Kali, avidly licking up the drops of blood, tells us that thoughts and desires, they are best conquered when nipped in the bud. So now Raktabija is dead. Now only two demons remain, Shumba and Nishumba, the brothers. Here Shumba represents the ego and Nishumba represents the sense of attachment, mamatva, the me and mine. When Divine Mother slays Nishumba, there remains ego denuded of all the borrowed attributes. All the demons that we saw till now, who are all slayed by the Divine Mother, they symbolically represent the borrowed attributes of the ego. Now once Nishumba is slayed, Shumba stands alone, face to face with the mother. So during this time, what happens is, Shumba, looking at mother, he chides at her, saying that she is relying on the strength of others in the fight. So then the Divine Mother answers, Ekaivaham jagatyatra dvitiyaka mamapara. In this whole world, I am the only one. There is no second to me. All these are but my manifestations. Now all the goddesses, they merged into the Devi, and the Divine Mother stood alone. Finally, Shumba is slain by the Divine Mother. This final victory represents the realization of true self. In the third section, the Devi was invoked as Mahasaraswati to gain knowledge, to remove ignorance and be detached from all our identities. The actual pain was the attachment. Now we become liberated from this attachment. So to summarize all these three sections, the main obstruction for enlightenment is the impurity of the mind. Devi Kali, she cleans our mind from impurities like desire, anger, hatred, jealousy, etc. Kali is terrible only for those who possess undesirable thoughts. When our mind becomes pure, we develop divinity within us. Then we worship Lakshmi, who is the goddess of prosperity. She makes our mind fit to accept the knowledge. Then we worship Devi Saraswati, who is the goddess of knowledge. By the blessings of Devi Saraswati, we become illumined. Now, the battle between Divine Mother and the demons in the Chandi, which we saw just now, is ongoing battle at present, but only with different names and forms. The Chandika of Chandi has now incarnated as Ambika in the form of Sri Sharada Devi to suit the present age. Now let us see what is the speciality and strategy of Divine Mother incarnated as Sri Sharada Devi. What are her powers and weapons? How is she going to slay the demons within us? And how does she make us surrender to her? And what is her Navadurga aspect? Once, when in Kashi, Sri Sharada Devi told a devotee to go and ask Swami Brahmananda what is the need of worship of Shakti. She was actually testing him, and Swami Brahmananda replied, the keys to realization of Brahman are in the hands of Divine Mother. In fact, we will realize the keys to anything, either material or spiritual. Everything is in the hands of Divine Mother. Once, Holy Mother was asked who you are. Then she said, I am Bhagavati, the Divine Mother of the universe. Is there anyone not born out of my womb? I am the only mother of the universe. Is there any other mother? Even the ants and insects are but my offspring. And in one more incident, one day at Jairam Bhatti, she was very much vexed with her relatives. I think mother was the only saintly person in her family. We know how all her other relatives were. So she was little angry with them, and in a little angry mood she said, "Do not torture me too much. If the one dwelling inside this body hisses but once, not even Brahma, Vishnu or Shiva will be able to save you." See, this is such a huge statement. Mother herself is giving this statement, indicating that she is the primordial source of Shakti from whom everyone else is driving their powers, including Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara. So, in an attempt to understand what this phenomenon called Sri Sharada Devi is, first let us see a couple of incidents where she has shown her cosmic form like Jagaddatri to few of the devotees. Swami Hari Premananda, a disciple of Holy Mother, recalled, "I saw the form of Jagaddatri with a golden complexion, 3 eyes, 4 arms, and numerous weapons adorned with ornaments. She wore a crown on her head, and there was a magnificent luster which was emanating from her body. Before I saw the form completely, I lost the outer consciousness." In another incident, Basana Nandi, she's a girl from Kamarpukur. She used to frequently go to mother and help her in her household activities. For her also, mother had blessed her with herself as Jagaddatri. But what happened to her is, when she saw that form of Jagaddatri, she got scared and she literally ran out of the room. To her, mother had also told, "I am Jagaddatri, Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati and Kali." Now, when we look at the response of these devotees who had seen Sharada Devi as the cosmic divine mother, we see that they were actually afraid and frightful. When we start to see this side of who Holy Mother is, we start to feel a bit nervous. If we were to have this kind of experience, we are almost frightful, like Vishwarupa Darshana that Arjuna had in Bhagavad Gita. But what is the kind of mother we see in Sharada Devi? It is just a sweet, loving and a friendly motherly figure. Sharada Devi, who revealed her cosmic aspect to few of these devotees, why did she come in this motherly form? So why this contradiction? The Chandika, why has she incarnated as Ambika? Because she wants to be relatable to us. She wants to be approachable. Then we can identify her as one among us and create an intimate, loving bond with her. If we were to see Mother in her cosmic form, we would feel more a sense of reverence. We would be like, "Ma, pranam to you from a distance. Looking at your huge cosmic form, I really would not be able to come close to you." So there would be a distance between us and the Mother. So through her Mahamaya, what she is doing is, she is veiling herself so that she can be relatable to us and create a close bond with us. So that's the speciality and Leela of Divine Mother incarnated as Sri Sharada Devi. Kindness, love, affection, acceptance, same-sightedness, these are the weapons of Sri Sharada Devi. So instead of fighting, discriminating, killing and neutralizing these asuras, what Holy Mother does is, she disarms, she softens, she embraces, and she melts our inner demons, which are our egos. When Swami Vivekananda, when he wanted to go and meet Holy Mother Sri Sharada Devi, first what he would do is, he would drink Ganga water, and once when he was actually near her, when he went to her, he would start trembling in fear. Why was Swamiji fearful looking at Holy Mother? Because he would see the Aishwarya aspect of the Holy Mother, the cosmic aspect. But to all of us, Mother wanted to show her Madhurya aspect, her loving, sweet, benevolent side. She did not want us to feel fearful. She wanted us to her as her children. So that is the reason why Sharada Devi takes on this form of Ambika, and she simply presents herself as our own mother. Now, how does she create a motherly bond with us? See, as an avatar she descends. Avatar means she's descending to come and be with us. She's coming to be with us and to guide us. So let us try to understand how Mother is doing this and how she is guiding to dissolve our tamasic, sattvic and rajasic egos. Whenever our mind is in tamasic state, when there is tamasic ego in us, how will the Mother guide us? For this, first we need to understand that even the most wicked disciple of her felt that they were really near and dear to her. She had absolutely no eye for their failings, and there was no error too grievous for her forgiveness, and if they would but open their heart, her overflowing sympathy and assurances of divine protection would heal the wounds of the soul. Once she was requested not to meet a certain young disciple to come into her presence on account of misconduct from his part. So for that she remarked, if my child gets covered with mud or dust, is it not my duty to cleanse him and take him to my lap? See, this was her response. Her very glance was enough to turn evil into good. When a woman who had led a bad life went to her in a mood of sincere repentance and made an unreserved confession of her sins, Mother embraced her with great warmth of feeling, uttering these words of assurances. Don't despair for all that you have done. You will get over all your sinful tendencies. This is how she consoled her. So, this is the guidance and assurance that we get from Mother to overcome the Madhukaitaba, the tamasiness. Now, when we are facing a Rajasic ego means when we encounter the need for our control and power. When we want to execute our control and power in any situation. When we want all the situations to go our way, and if it doesn't happen, we feel things will fall apart. We become angry, aggressive, agitated. So, this is the Mahishasura in us. When that Mahishasura rises in us, what does Mother say to us? She would say, my child, if you want peace of mind, do not find fault with others. Rather, learn to see your own faults. Learn to make the world your own. But still, the Mahishasura in us says, Mother, when someone offends me, should I not scold them and put them in their place? Then the Mother would say, one should not hurt others even by words. One must not speak even an unpleasant truth unnecessarily. By indulging in rude words, one's nature becomes rude and one's sensitivity is lost. Mother is not annihilating the Mahishasura in us. She is showing us a way to completely dissolve. So this is not problem solving, but dissolving it. This is the sadhana what Mother is teaching us. She is asking us to free ourselves from all the anxieties and entrust all our future to her. When we do this, we see that Mother becomes the source of our security, source of our protection and safety. When we surrender to her, we start to feel that she takes responsibility for us and we are thereby relieved of the responsibility of controlling things, people and places. In Chandi, we have seen that when Devatas were conquered by Mahishasura, all their unified powers, it manifested itself. It took the form of Ma Durga. So in a similar way, when we look at the history of India and the history of the world, we see how women and masses, they were oppressed for ages. So we could say Sri Sharda Devi is the unified power of all these women and masses who were oppressed for ages. That Shakti has come in the form of Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi to correct us and guide us. So next is to deal with the Shumba and Nishumba within us. This represents the Sattvic ego in us, because of which we feel pride in our spiritual practices and in our renunciation also. So this is the result of clinging to our own identities. We have to transcend this and know what is our true, real identity is. For the one filled with spiritual pride, Mother's answer is, what does one become by realizing God? Does one get two horns? No, what happens is, the person develops discrimination between real and unreal, gets spiritual consciousness, and goes beyond life and death. When one calls upon the Divine Mother at the end, he finds her in all of the creation. Everything then becomes one. And that's what happened in Chandi. When Shumba and Nishumba were destroyed, there was nothing but the presence of Mother. It was Mother and Mother alone. In the Chandi, we see how Divine Mother is slaying demons with numerous weapons in a ferocious way. Actually, Universal Divine Mother, Sri Sharada Devi, she is also doing the same, but her strategy is different. She has a very special approach. She has only one weapon to make everyone surrender to her. That is love of a mother. The whole world is her child. One bond of love is engulfing everything. There is a beautiful song which describes Holy Mother as Nikila Matru Hridaya Sagara Mantana Sudhamurati, which means if we churn the hearts of all the mothers in this universe, the pure nectar of love which we get, she is the embodied form of that nectar. She radiates the supreme motherhood of God in all its aspects. With her love, our tamasic, rajasic and sattvic egos, they melt away naturally. She transforms us and she takes us towards illumination. There are also a couple of incidents which actually show the human aspect of Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi. So one such incident is, once when Mother was in Udbodhan house, she asked one brahmachari whether he was afraid of ghosts. So for that brahmachari replied, Mother, we are the children of Divine Mother. How can we be afraid of ghosts? Then Sri Sharada Devi replied, oh, but I am afraid of ghosts. You know, they make my stomach shrivel. So this was, then brahmachari, he started laughing and he said, oh, you are afraid of your own creation, is it? So this was the human aspect of Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi. Now, we have come across this concept of surrendering to God. It is also mentioned in Upanishads and Gita. But how do we actually surrender to God? How do we do that? The Divine Mother, Sri Sharada Devi, invokes this surrendering attitude in us in a natural way. Through her love, she unlocks all our internal resistance, and through that she creates a loving relationship with us and she makes us feel like a child in her lap. See, nobody would teach a child how to surrender to its own mother. The child knows it has to call on its mother for everything. It has to depend on its mother for everything. It is a known thing for a child. Similarly, Sharada Devi, she makes us feel like a child in her lap so that calling on her becomes natural to us. So we really understand that we have none but the mother. This surrendering to God, which is a key attitude to go towards illumination, now becomes internal part of our system through Sri Sharada Devi's grace. This is the beauty and speciality of Sri Sharada Devi. She melts away the little inner demons which are our egos in us, and she makes us feel her love and presence in our life. Till now, what we have understood is, we know how Mother is melting our three kinds of egos and how she is making us surrender to her through her motherly love. So now once we have surrendered, let us see how she is going to take care of our evolution and protect us. We know the Navadurga aspect of Ma Durga. Shailaputri, Brahmachari, Chandraghanta, Kushmanda, Skandamata, Katyayani, Kalaratri, Mahagauri, Siddhidatri. Now, what is the Navadurga aspect of our Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi? This once Swami Brahmanandaji explained it to Swami Dhiranandaji, who is also a disciple of Sri Sharada Devi. Sharada Devi is Aghanashiri, destroyer of sins. Tapaharini, Doshadalini, Shokanashini, Mohanashini. These 5 are the destructive aspects of Sri Sharada Devi through which she purifies our mind. Ashrayadayini, Premavarshini, Shantidayini, Anandadayini. Through these 4 aspects, she protects us and takes us towards enlightenment. So, the Navadurga aspect of Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi is Aganashini, Tapaharini, Doshadalani, Shokanashini, Mohanashini. The 5 destructive aspects: Ashrayadayini, Premavarshini, Shantidayini, Anandadayini. The 4 protective aspects. So, this is the strategy of Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi. She is melting our egos, making us surrender to her, and helping us in our evolution and protecting us through her Navadurga aspect. She is taking care of us as our own eternal mother. But why did God manifest as Shakti? He could have manifested in any other form, right? But why did Sharada Devi incarnate? Because it is for this simple reason that she is the energy behind the universe. As long as we are bound to this body-mind complex, it is only mother we can relate to. So, she is the divine energizer of this universe. She is the energy which brings Brahman into manifestation as life. So, we can relate to this great Mahashakti directly when she comes as a mother. She only is the divine Shakti that comes in various forms according to age, and she has come like this in this age because she knows how we are in this age and how we have turned away from many beautiful things in life. We have lost many of the basic values of life. So that is the reason she has come in the form of mother, to guide us in her own simple way. What is required for the age? Avatar comes like that. In this age, what we require is contentment, fortitude, and all the basic values of life. So she has come to give that. The avatars, they actually foresee how the age is going to be like, what the minds of the people will be chasing, what they actually require in that particular age. So she has come like this to give this practical application of spirituality, especially suited to this age. Mother used to say, no virtue equivalent to contentment and no value equal to fortitude. These are all lacking in this age, and that is why she is putting insistence on all these basic things. So she is putting insistence on all these things. She is telling what is important, but how is she making these spiritual values and practical spirituality reach the masses? It is through Ramakrishna Sangha, which was the result of her prayer in Bodh Gaya. When Sri Sharada Devi made a pilgrimage to Puri Jagannath Dham and Bodh Gaya, she saw the Buddhist monastery there. So after seeing that, she prayed to Sri Ramakrishna that a similar abode for the monks of Ramakrishna order should become a reality. Atmano mokshartam jagat hitaya cha. For one's own liberation and for the welfare of the world is the motto of the Ramakrishna Sangha. Mother, she has incarnated for revival of the Shakti. As Swami Vivekananda says, I'll quote Swamiji's complete statement here. Mother has been born to revive Shakti in India. Making her the nucleus, once more will Gargis and Maitreyis be born into the world. Hence it is her mutt that I want first. Without the grace of Shakti, nothing is to be accomplished. Hence we must first build a mutt for mother. First mother and mother's daughters, then father and father's sons. To me, mother's grace is 100,000 times more valuable than father's. Mother's grace, mother's blessings are all paramount to me. So this is what Swamiji is telling, Swami Vivekananda says. And on 12th November 1893, Swami Vivekananda founded the Ramakrishna Mutt at Belur, and Sri Sharada Devi, she herself set the feet on the newly established mutt and performed the puja of Sri Ramakrishna. On the very next day, that is 13th November 1893, Sri Sharada Devi inaugurated the Nivedita school at Bagh Bazar, Kolkata, in the presence of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Brahmananda and Swami Sharadananda. Thus, Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi can be said to have started Ramakrishna Mutt, and also she launched the movement for women in the form of Nivedita school, and also in a way laid foundation for the future Sri Sharada Mutt. Inhabiting the traditional role of a mother and nurturer while carrying it out in a highly non-traditional manner, Sharada Devi played a central, often behind the scenes role as a major influencer of an important modern Hindu spiritual movement, the first such movement to command an international following. With no biological children of her own, Sharada Devi became the mother to this movement and to the monastic order dedicated to carrying forward the vision of Sri Ramakrishna. She played a momentous role in the emergence of modern global Hinduism. Sharada Devi, giving rise to a spiritual movement that today spans the globe, is the Sangha Janani of the order, mother of the order. Though holding no formal role in the Ramakrishna order, Sharada Devi was regarded as the final authority in all matters relating to the Ramakrishna order. Sharada Devi was held in such profound reverence by everyone in the order that any wish or opinion expressed by her was regarded as a command to be obeyed without question. See, as humans, we need to meet life challenges boldly every day. We have to face all the challenges. And Sharada Devi, she shows us how to do it. When we read her life mindfully and we actually meditate on her life, we see an extraordinarily strong human being, brimming with confidence, full of faith in herself and her ideal, and sure of what she is doing every moment of her life. She is not only living this life, but she is making us also feel that we too can be like her. We do imbibe mother's qualities when we become her children in the truest sense. Those amongst us whose spiritual lives are influenced by the power and light of the Holy Trio's wisdom are all Holy Mother's children. Everyone who is associated with the Ramakrishna tradition is a Holy Mother's child, because she is the mother who powers, preserves and guides the tradition. As Holy Mother's children, we are all armed with her greatest assurance. In fact, this is one of the greatest of all the assurances that any incarnation could give to humanity. It is, do not fear, my child. Always remember that Sri Ramakrishna is behind you. I am also with you. As long as you remember me, your mother, why should you be frightened? Those who are my children are already free. Not even the providence has the power to send my children to hell. Free yourself from all anxiety by entrusting your future to me. Never fear. Whenever you are in distress, just say to yourself, I have a mother. So, I have a mother, this is the mantra of the age. Mother makes everything possible. She really does everything by herself. But she likes to make her children feel that she is getting everything done through them. And as her children, we all know this. So, all of us being her children can remain free from anxiety, jealousy, pride and hatred. And freedom from all these things will fill us with love and understanding, peace and joy. In whatever we think, whatever we say, whatever we do, let us not forget the mantra, I have a mother. So let me conclude here. This is the Leela of Divine Mother Sri Sharada Devi, the Chandika incarnated as Ambika, which is to go on for centuries to come. Every time when we remember I have a mother, we hear mother saying, you are my child. Thank you. यथाग्नेर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता ह्य सर्वविद्यां स्वरूपां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्।